we could confirm that the spike protein is produced in the deltoid muscles where the vaccine is administered, injected. But we could show it in almost all organs, more or less explicitly. And here you see a case where we show the testis, and you can see that in this 28-year-old man who had a healthy son and who died 140 days after injection, the spike protein is strongly expressed in the spermatogenic organ in the testis, and you can see there are almost no spermatocytes in here, but it's strongly expression of spike protein in the spermatogenic tissue. If I were a woman in fertile age, I would not plan a motherhood from a man who has been vaccinated.
Now, Dr. Burkhart is, he's not just a nobody. He taught at the University of Hamburg. He was a professor, a visiting professor, not only in Japan, the United States, Korea, Sweden, Malaysia, and Turkey. So he's got a really, really strong foundation of credibility, and people listen to him. Now, for him to make a recommendation that women of childbearing age not have relationships with men who've been vaccinated should be shocking to everyone out there. Everyone listening should be infuriated, because what happens to the women who...
A lot of other scientists have said that too, but go ahead.
Yeah, what happens to the generations to come for the women who did have relationships with men who had the vaccine, and they're having this basically mutation of the spermatozoa where it no longer exists, and now you're doing the shedding effect. And what happens to the generations to come? We have no idea what it's going to do to them.
Again, people that don't know who Jesse is, he's an amazing individual. He was had a high-level firefighter and EMT and a bunch of other stuff, and then he began to learn what was happening in California with people, began investigating it decades ago, and then now he's all over the place at the EU, the U.S. government, everywhere with researchers, and talking to world leaders, compiling this covert war. And like months ago, he's on talking about something, and literally comes out right after he says it. It's just wild. So Jesse, it's really great to have you here with us. I appreciate you sitting there while I played some of those clips. That's just the tip of the iceberg, but you sent me a whole bunch of articles and things. Sperm parameters before and after COVID-19 mRNA. You have all these studies that literally eats the testicles and ovaries, effects of COVID-19 vaccination, semen parameters. We've got effects of SARS-CoV-2 on semen. This is one of the main targets where young men are dying, and when they do the autopsy, I know we've covered this last week, this is like scientists covering this, they cut up the testicles, there's no sperm, it's been taken over, and it's only replicating spike protein, the HIV spike protein, which again, the testicles are supposed to grow biological things, so it's perfectly programmed to do that. Jesse, break this down for us. Great to have you with us.
Yeah, well, the bottom line is that, back in 2010, a lot of people really questioned my sanity. And I set out on a journey to make sure that I very methodically was able to prove that this phenomenon was happening here on U.S. soil prior to 2016, which the U.S. government claimed was only happening to diplomats and federal employees.
You're talking about Havana syndrome.
It's all one big program. It's all the same, and it all circles around to this. There was one big piece of the puzzle that was missing, and that was when I went to go interview Dr. Cruz. And when he talked about this sixth extinction event that is approaching us at an unprecedented speed, and which very much bothered him, and he was very perplexed and wasn't sure if he could even convey the information. But he preyed upon it, and he gave us that information, and it was when it finally clicked to me. If what Dr. Cruz is saying is true, The elites are going to have some type of mechanism in order to track everyone around this globe, not just humans, but animal life, vegetation, and everything, because...
And that's why it replicates as nanotech and spreads into everything. Like in the Johnny Depp Singularity, what was the movie called? What was his, like 20 years ago? He becomes a dust that fills the earth to save us. And the AI takes over the whole planet. What was that movie called?
I can't remember the name, but I know which movie you're talking about. But here's the bottom line. If there are only going to be a few areas on the planet to live, and which we can call green zones, then the elites in those within those green zones are going to have to be able to monitor everyone who's infected with radiation so that they're kept out of those green zones so they don't infiltrate them. And that is a hypothesis that pretty much answers all of the questions.
And we have a Bill Gates patent about nanotech spike protein to track you by satellite and to monetize it, which is the ghost murmur system.
Correct. Now, remember, we found that pilot using quantum magnetometry
No, you said, I'm interrupting because it's so crazy. We got to have, I wish I had a bigger crew. We go find what you said this like 6 months ago. You were saying the nanotech can be picked up by 5G cell towers, but also satellites, and it's a tracking system, which Bill Gates admits. Now they go, oh, we know where to find the pilot. We have a ghost murmur. Well, not just because they can scan a heartbeat, but because they have them implanted. Sorry, go ahead.
Exactly. And so just think about that. They were able to track his heart signal using quantum magnetometry because you have these amplification systems in you. And that's what's in the nano. You're talking about the graphene oxide. You're talking about the silicon materials, which are in all electronic components. And these are no different. They're just of a much, much smaller size that the human eye cannot see. 50 nanometers and smaller, which 50 nanometers is 1/2000th times the width of a human hair. You'd never be able to see that on most microscopes. You have to have these very expensive $1 million microscopes that most research facilities in the military has in order to see these. Now, what is most disturbing, we talked about the Trojan horse that Dr. Sherry Tenpenny talks about, where when they were doing the testing and that the nano was in the hydrogel. Dr. Rima Lebeau, who is a friend who's been on your program and who is a friend, close colleague, friend of ours, our team, and she has been spot on. She has been touting the whistle just as long as you have, Alex, and telling everyone
longer.
That this was
She's
coming.
One of my sources. Her husband was the head of the Army. That they were going to give us a shot to erase our immune system. She was saying that 20 years ago. We said it on record 2009 on Ventura's show, and she was treating, because of HIPAA, she can't say, global royalty. And they were telling her 20 years ago the plan. Correct.
And, kudos to Dr. Rima, because she stood by her ground. She stood on a moral ground. She stood by her ethics, and she stood by the truth. And for that, I admire her, for doing that, because we need more patriots like her, patriots for humanity. And we talked about the Trojan horse being the testing. Now, here was the other Trojan horse. They sterilized humanity, and Dr. Arne Burkhart, who was a German pathologist who was doing autopsies on individuals who had died, they were postmortem after getting the jab, from ages 28 on up into the 70s. And what he discovered was that the spike protein not only infiltrated all of the organs within the human body, but specifically it completely attacked the testicles and the gonads, basically stopping and preventing them from producing sperm. And if we could pull that up, it's very enlightening, and this should infuriate every single person out there watching this program right now. Because at the end, I want you to pay close attention to what he's recommending to all women of childbearing age.
And by the way, since the 60s, we will. Since the 60s, the UN has been obsessed and developed birth control or sterilization vaccines. They talked about using self-replicating viruses to do it. So what is it you're saying? Pull up, and we'll pull it up.
Yeah, it's Dr. Arne Burkhart.
Yeah. Okay. So we're going to play. That's clip one.
Should be, yes.
All right. So here's clip one, and then let's just go right into Died Suddenly to official trailer exclusive. Play both those back to back.
We could confirm that the spike protein is produced in the deltoid muscles where the vaccine is administered, injected. But we could show it in almost all organs, more or less explicitly. And here you see a case where we show the testes, and you can see that in this 28-year-old man who had a healthy son and who died 140 days after injection, the spike protein is strongly expressed in the spermatogenic organ in the testes, and you can see there are almost no spermatocytes in here, but it's strongly expression of spike protein in the spermatogenic tissue. If I were a woman in fertile age, I would not plan a motherhood from a man who has been vaccinated.
Well, it was once considered a conspiracy theory.
Mysterious brain injuries.
Declassified CIA documents prove that, yes, the CIA actually has been, for decades, researching how vaccines could be used for mind control.
A previously unknown weapon.
Brutal directed energy weapon systems that are designed to incapacitate.
Wounded by a secret weapon.
Individual over a certain period of time will produce psychological and physical reactions.
I immediately felt fullness in my head.
A full body convulsion.
And just a piercing headache.
Like someone squeezing your head.
Absolutely life-altering.
The incidents became known as Havana Syndrome.
Havana Syndrome.
Directed energy attacks on U.S. soil.
It was happening not only to our diplomats, it's happening to the best of our best in the FBI, the CIA, and now congressional members in Congress.
It is essentially a declaration of war against the United States.
Well, I'm not allowed to talk about it. It discombobulated everything.
Is the government trying to mind control me?
There are a number of resources that wanted to step out, and they're not alive anymore.
And they began to basically beat him to death.
I'm fortunate that I didn't die.
Nobody on this planet has any right to battle tag human beings. Nobody.
All right, so we're not on the verge of revelation or disclosure on this. It's all coming out. Why is it coming out now? And continue to break down what that clip about the attack on the testicles is doing.
Well, basically what they've done, they've sterilized humanity. And that was another Trojan horse, basically a fallout of what no one expected. We just thought the goal was to infect you with the nano so that they can have a mechanism to control you through RF integration, that meaning 4G, 5G, 6G, and satellite technologies that integrate with these amplified antenna systems that are in the nanotech, these nanorobots. And without the amplifications in the nanotech, you could not use satellite systems, quantum satellite systems using magnetometry to locate that soldier, for example. But it does work when you utilize these materials. And that's where we're at today. Now, if you notice at the end of that film, that little clip by Dr. Burkhart. Now, Dr. Burkhart is, he's not just a nobody. He taught at the University of Hamburg. He was a professor, a visiting professor, not only in Japan, the United States, Korea, Sweden, Malaysia, and Turkey. So he's got a really, really strong foundation of credibility, and people listen to him. Now, for him to make a recommendation that women of childbearing age not have relationships with men who've been vaccinated should be shocking to everyone out there. Everyone listening should be infuriated, because what happens to the women who...
A lot of other scientists have said that too, but go ahead.
Yeah, what happens to the generations to come for the women who did have relationships with men who had the vaccine, and they're having this basically mutation of the spermatozoa where it no longer exists, and now you're doing the shedding effect. And what happens to the generations to come? We have no idea what it's going to do to them. We already know that post-vaccine, that millions of people were dying. They were having coagulation issues, which they were finding in pathology exams. Inflammation of the myocardium, the lung areas, every organ, the kidneys, everything was being affected by it. Now, what is going to happen to the children who are now been born of this non-consensually imposed mutation that they've done to humanity? There are 7 states here in the United States, fortunately, who have now are moving legislation to make the mRNA a bioweapon. And if that doesn't raise an eyebrow, the bottom line is this is treason, and anyone who is involved or responsible for this needs to be held accountable. It's time for Americans to wake up. And I'm asking every male out there, because if you think that your government or the people above you are going to come to save you, after seeing this being done to humanity, you better wake up. It's time that we stand up, not only for ourselves, our children, our wives, our spouses, our loved ones. It's time that we stand up for what this country was supposed to stand for.
It is Friday evening, May 1st, 2026. I have a major update on the shutdown of InfoWars that happened last night at midnight and the future of the fight against the tyrants, because this is just boosting the real InfoWar. A URL, a studio, means nothing. Information warfare is about truth versus lies. And I am the InfoWar. You are the InfoWar. And as John Paul Jones, the founder of the U.S. Navy, famously said to the British, when a ship twice the size and 3 times the men was battling them, and they hailed across and said, "Give up, surrender." And he said, "Surrender, I've not yet begun to fight." That is where we are. I'm not putting a good face on this. It's amazing how this is blowing up in their face. Thanks to you spreading the word about our new URL, AlexJonesLive.com, with the show, the live feeds, the articles, the reports, all of it, the same great host and guest and analysis of tomorrow's news today. Over 6 million people, as of 6 o'clock at night Central, I just checked a few minutes ago, have visited the website. So it's almost 7 million. And by tomorrow, who knows? I mean, that is amazing. Top of Drudge, want to thank everybody, all the other talk show hosts, journalists who understand what's really happening, that show trials funded by the CIA and DOJ, that's been declassified, literally came after me, and they set all this up, and it's taken them hundreds of millions of dollars they filed in court, or $300 million they said they spent trying to shut us down, and they finally did it, and they are so upset because they didn't do it all properly with The Onion, financed by Bloomberg and his Everytown Gun Control Group. They didn't do it all correctly, so they failed, like they did with their fake auction a year and a half ago, to take control, and they're in a lot of civil and, I believe, criminal trouble. But that's all coming. But I'm not worried at the end of the day about the URL or the old building, because the awakening globally is so massive. The only variable in this fight against these tyrants, by the way, the Onion people and their supporters, I did a whole report on today. It's at AlexJonesLive.com. with all their X posts and Blue Sky posts, are literally saying, "Charlie Kirk, Alex Jones, kill him, kill him, kill him. We've got to stop him." And that's what these violent individuals are into. It doesn't matter that the shooter has confessed and shot video of himself and put out a manifesto last week at the correspondence dinner. The left saying, "Oh, that's staged by Trump," or whatever. We're never for violence, even though that's all they push. And so when you're calling for killing people, it's not because you're winning the argument, it's because you're losing the argument. And look, I know I'm stating the obvious here, but the major update is this. I did 4 hours a day, record numbers of viewers and listeners, but I was so focused on the news and information that I dropped the ball in one key area. Yes, I promoted AlexJonesLive.com. Yes, I said go to AlexJonesApp.com, where the free Droid and Apple app are linked, and tell everybody you know to download it. That's the real power. It's not just you listening, but telling others to listen to the forbidden information. So I did okay there. But I barely promoted what funds us, and that's AlexJonesStore.com. That's our sponsor. That owns the Alex Jones Network, so the bad guys can't shut it down. It has the very best supplements. It has the widest selection of Patriot apparel. It has all sorts of amazing other collectible knives and other items at really great prices. I only sell things that really work. I want to be tomorrow's news today. So I want to be the most accurate I can be. I still make mistakes, but 98% accurate. The corporate media lies on purpose. I battle to do research and to try to have the best information, the best guests. I have guests on, pollsters, historians, and others that have the very best track records of being right over and over and over again. Birds of a feather fly together. That's who I want to associate with. And so any products I sell you really work and are amazing. Again, I use the analogy all the time, like a restaurant. If I owned a restaurant, and I worked for restaurants stuff in high school and college, so I know how they work. I want to have great food, high quality, delicious, great atmosphere, great service at a reasonable price, so you want to come back again and again. I don't want to sell you a steak or a salad or lasagna or something one time. I want to sell you it over and over and over again. If I had a hamburger shack, I would have the most delicious cheeseburger ever that I think's the best. I would strive to have the best cheeseburger because I love cheeseburgers, and I want to sell you cheeseburgers that are great that you want to get over and over again at a good price. So they attack me and say, oh, he sells snake oil. Ladies and gentlemen, methylene blue is on record that skips multiple levels of oxidation in the body and energizes your cells and detoxifies and gives you natural energy we don't let down. Bovine colostrum grows your nails, your hair, everything. Many people go from having gray hair to their hair going back to having color with it, like my mother. I mean, it is insane, 76 years old. We sell the very best private label of it. Every product we've got is already certified to be the very best. Most of them are just private labels, whatever the top brand is, they go out and they let us do it. Others, we take one and even make it better. So believe me, that's the variable, is funding our operation. So all of you that have supported us at the AlexJonesStore.com, you're the reason we're still in the air. Without you, I could have a fighting spirit and never back down and be as macho as I want to be, but it's not going to work. I can only do it because of you. That's why I'm so humble and so thankful for your word of mouth about the broadcast, spreading the word, and about your prayer, which is the most important, and about your financial support while you get great products. You know my information is powerful. For those on the fence, you're missing out getting our methylene blue. You're missing out getting our proprietary methylene red. You're missing out getting our Shilajit and our CMOS. Those aren't sexy names, but they do incredible things. Our T3 iodine, the very best, the missing link. It's all there at the AlexJonesStore.com. So please go there today and get these amazing products. Also, there's a sister site Bigley has, RealAlexJones.com. That in the past was just for funding the Alex Jones Network while they were building it in beta. Now it's fully launched. They always hold back 10% of the products that come in for RealAlexJones.com. So we have these amazing trench daggers that came in a week ago. They sold out in 2 days at the AlexJonesStore.com, but they held back 400, and they're down about 100 right now at RealAlexJones.com. So if you want to get those, they'll probably be gone by tomorrow. That's an example. When something's sold out at the AlexJonesStore.com, it's almost always still available at RealAlexJones.com until the information gets out. To the same warehouse in Arkansas, same people, but they hold back supplies there. So get the amazing daggers right now. Check them out for yourself. Trench daggers with the skull crusher, the murdered out, brass knuckles, 10-inch, double-edged, stainless steel, laser and script with all these great designs at RealAlexJones.com. So I'll continue to fight in a special show tomorrow at 11 a.m. Central, 12 noon Eastern on the new Alex Jones Network. You can find it all at AJN Live on X, Real Alex Jones on X, Rumble, The Alex Jones Show, and of course at AlexJonesLive.com. Please join us tomorrow. Thank you so much for everything you've done. Regular show times, same radio stations, everything. Because of our great crew and your support, we're able to make it through this together. So from the bottom of my heart, from all fellow Americans, other liberty lovers around the world, we are the answer in 1984. We are 1776. And if you're watching or listening to this transmission, you truly are the resistance, and humanity has the initiative, and we're unstoppable when you realize how much power you've got. So buy the products that are amazing. Spread the word. Pray for the broadcast. Support other great broadcasts, and just keep taking action, because we have the initiative, we're winning the battles, and we will win the war. Thank you so much. I'll see you at the Alex Jones Network at AlexJonesLive.com.